coming up on the Shores.
To be able to share and call it out for what it is. Where are they?
But when it happens in our own state, we're quiet.
Guess what? We have the whole 10-minute video. Release your video.
Where's the community leadership at?
Just wanted to highlight that because I feel like there's like small things happening in the city that are really positive.
They're underfunded, but they're doing all they can to help Black and brown children.
Because this keeps happening up and down our state. This isn't a Wilmington issue. This isn't.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Janae Darby.
And welcome to The Source. Last week we had an exciting show. We received so much responses by the things that you all are sharing, and I'm glad you're watching. But today we start again by talking about gun violence in America and in our community. Many of the reports, the news channels, whether it be our Delaware Online, whether it be WDAL, have not reported any shootings or murders in our city or in our county. However, there is some unreported items where there's been some shootings, but we're not going to get into that because we only want to bring you facts, and because we don't have that kind of resources, we will be very careful. But there is some upticks that are going on. First, in carjacking. I ask that while you all are traveling and moving about throughout the city as well as the state and the country, that you please be mindful of your surroundings. Please make sure you drive with your car doors locked. And if by some chance someone approaches you with a gun and tell you and demand that you get out of the car, I suggest that maybe you may want to comply because your car is not bulletproof and you don't want to find yourself in a bad circumstance. Also, we are finding that home intrusions or home invasions are up as well. Many people who have these camcorders or these cameras on their homes, they're now sharing it with many people, how people are just busting through doors and they're coming in. Please make sure you are protecting your family and those who you love, as well as yourselves. And finally, we're having an overdose issue, and we are really the drug overdose in our community is really high, but even around the country, around the state, we're asking that you please be mindful in whatever kind of help that can be provided to assist with those who are taking a lot of these drugs. I think it's Percocet now that is the real issue. When the doctor prescribed them because of broken bones and things of that nature, be careful. If you can tolerate the pain, I would suggest that you do it. One of the things that, my wife, when she broke her ankle, she was very clear. She did not want the pain medicine. She had to be able to just deal with it. And many nights it was very hard, but she had to deal with it because she knows how addictive. And that's why I don't criticize those who find themselves in that predicament, because that medicine is very addictive.
Yeah, it's that medicine. It's just the prescribing of the community right now has led to this epidemic that we're seeing that's affecting everyone, right? It has no discrimination, really. We're seeing it spike in other communities, but at the end of the day, you want people to be very mindful that some of these doctors are just out here to get a check.
That's sad. That's sad to believe, but that is the reality. And if we can just drug them up, then everything will be fine, as opposed to trying to deal with some of the pain naturally and let the body heal itself naturally. Moving on from those issues, we do want to This is not going to be a new segment. We just decided after last week's show, and we did declare it on last week's show, that we're going to start doing some follow-up, and there'll be no more disrespect or disregard to this community. We were talking before the show today as a group, and we were just sharing how, when you are placed in a position of power, whether you be black, white, whatever, you have a responsibility to speak for the voiceless. You have been appointed, and in some cases, the church language is anointed to speak for those voices that does not have an opportunity to be heard. One of the things we're going to do is hold you accountable. We're going to continue to hold you accountable. We're going to continue to talk about it. You can't say nobody's listening to us, because if there's any indication of how many calls we received this week, of the amount of people who are watching and listening, I think that we have a good viewership, if not just on 28, also on YouTube and etc. The first thing I want to ask a question to you, brothers and sisters, is, where is the conference called, the press conference for the children, the young people who were mishandled by the state police? Where's that conference? Where's their press conference at?
So I know for the organizing I'm doing with the family, I'm going to give a shout out to Keandra McDowell, who hosted the event where Brother Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton, came here to Delaware. And during that time, she offered me a speaking slot. And because I was in contact with the family and everything, I invited the four teens who recorded the situation of the young boy being brutalized by the cops to come and speak and tell their story. We're going to be doing a more formal, solely on that incident press conference, but that's going to be with the family, the attorneys, and with the NAACP. But that's probably not going to be until next week. We want to make sure that we understand all the charges going into this, and make sure that the families are okay with us going forward with any
Well,
action.
that's not really I'm sorry if I cut you off, but that's not really my question with them. I don't think that the ones who have been injured should be the ones raising the consciousness of what has occurred. Where is the leadership, starting with IMAC, for example? Where is the leadership for a press conference to be called outside of the family? They have to watch it legally, but not those of us who are in power. We don't have to watch it legally. We need to be able to share and call it out for what it is. Where are they?
That was my question. Where are these state legislators who are so for gun reform, police reform and Leah Board? Where are they? They're quiet. I'm sorry. And I try to, I'm trying to put some trust into the system. These organizations are people, but I don't believe them. It's all face value, and it's for, like, they had that public committee with IMAC. Where's everyone now? Are they going to be at this press conference?
What? But that's not their press conference.
So
I didn't cut you off.
this isn't their press conference. I don't know what they're doing in terms of planning, if they're going to be doing one independently or not. Again, when we do our press conferences, we open it up to everyone who wants to come and support the family.
Right.
And I think, like, we'll support things when it happens nationally. George Floyd, Tyree Nichols. Like, we'll get up, we'll march, we'll sing, we'll dance, we'll have these little public conference and press release. But when it happens in our own state, we're quiet. It is crickets. And it's unacceptable from our leaders, our politicians, that no one is saying anything right now except for the family. It's unacceptable.
Now, if there would have been a murder, then I guess that elevates to the level of we
They
need to have a
still would
press
have been
conference.
quiet.
Well, they would have been
There's
quiet
been
for a
murders.
minute, but I think you're absolutely correct, and it kind of bothers me as a leader in this community. I don't have an organization that's backing me. I was put out of IMAC, so I don't have a organization to back me. I am a member of the NAACP. However, this is unfair. These young people were done wrong by the state police, and there was no response from our community, from those who have power.
So I just want to say this. I do know that there are some legislators who are helping pull on some of those levers that we're going up against right now, especially with this case, right? Because the state police are trying to overstep their boundaries and engage with the school, trying to get these girls in trouble, trying to push it further, put false charges on these young ladies. I think the focus is, one, on the criminal side of things, and the ask is for the attorney general to drop all charges when it comes in regards to what happened, what we saw. Right, we saw 3 young ladies
Mhm.
who are between the ages of 15 to 17. That's why I'm not saying their names. Who did everything right,
Mhm.
who asked a simple question: what is your badge number? Why are you doing that to that kid?
Mhm.
We're filming. And it wasn't until the cop escalated the situation, grabbed one for simply recording, that, you know, some foul language was used. But that's okay.
Mhm.
If you know your rights and you know you haven't done anything, why is that cop arresting you?
Absolutely. Mhm.
Then they try to say, oh, well, the video on Instagram and on your Twitter, Kobe, is only 4 minutes. It was a whole 10-minute situation. Well, guess what? We have the whole 10-minute video. Release your video.
Mhm.
Release what you were saying.
Mhm.
Because we see the whole interaction.
Mhm. It was something you said a few seconds ago, Kobe. That I hear you, but I want to dig it a little bit
Mhm.
deeper, and that is that that there are legislators, and when I believe that, I mean we got some good legislators.
Mhm.
There are some legislators who are doing things behind the scenes, but this is what the problem is. I was taught as a young kid that if you act out in public, you need to be disciplined in public because it needs to be. It needs. So some of the same legislators, I know they're behind the scenes trying to make sure that these young people are not doing what they need to be doing, but somebody need to be in public saying, "Hey, we're not tolerating this, Mr. Governor. You need to do A, B, C, and D." Are those cops still on the beat?
Oh,
Are those
absolutely.
cops still working and getting a check from the state that we pay our taxes to? If this is true, that's a problem.
Mhm.
Because when I do something wrong, when you do something wrong, we immediately get arrested. We immediately are removed from our jobs or whatever we have. So I hear you. I agree that there are some who really work hard behind the scenes, but there needs to be an outcry in public. This will not be tolerated with our young black boys and girls.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Again, you know, I'm just saying from my aspect of thing and how NAACP do it.
Mhm.
I know people think that we just jump out there
Mhm.
with no plan. We always, our first point is make sure the individual or the family who's been harmed has legal representation.
Mhm.
We've done it with Rodney Robinson's family, Lamont Moses's family, and so on. When it comes to victims like that, we did it with Dwayne Brown, who he did not lose his life, but he was still brutalized by the cops. That's how we operate. We want to make sure that the other side cannot use anything we say,
Mhm.
because we may know more information that hasn't been released yet. We don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't want to do the wrong thing. We don't want to affect the case that's coming because we want to try to hold them accountable as best as possible. And we want them to file a civil case as well, too.
Mhm.
But that's all up to the individual person for deciding which way to go with that.
Well,
At
what
this
about the
point,
community leaders? They don't have to do that.
Right. So, and I hear your, and I'm agreeing with you. I hear your response, and you're not here to defend either or. But what you're doing is you're giving us so something is being done. But
mhm.
where I am is where's the community leadership at? Where is the people who invited a mayor to come to a press conference and gave him a platform to speak in that platform in that press conference? And what he said was so belittling and so insensitive.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending what the mayor said and why he was at the press conference. I didn't know he was going to be at the press conference. They either said at the press conference he wasn't supposed to be there, but decided to be there. I
He has a right. He has a right to come. He
right,
don't have a
Yeah.
right to speak.
Speak. That's
exactly.
different.
I had, and you know, anyone who knows me knows I tried to type out my thoughts, right, so
Mhm.
that I don't miss anything. But when he spoke, it caught me off guard, and I changed the majority of what I wanted to say because I was going to stay very focused on policy base and break it down like I usually do. But I had to bring up the families that has been impacted here in Delaware
Right.
and here in Wilmington. What he said about this not being a Wilmington based issue, right?
Mhm.
And that is just a national issue goes to show you how disengaged he really is with our police department.
No, I think
This
he's engaged.
This is how
the community.
disengaged he is from our
He needs
community.
to apologize. Mayor Mike Purzycki needs to apologize to the majority of the city who is black and brown, who has experiences with the police that are negative, who families have been impacted. He needs to apologize for what he's saying. How y'all called for me to apologize in the newspaper. The FOP, the Mayor Mike Purzycki, Council Members Anthony Oliver, and rest her soul, Council Member Loretta Walsh. Y'all all asked for me to apologize for a post I put up about the foundation of policing. Y'all need to ask for Mayor Mike Purzycki and IMAC to apologize for what they did to the community.
And I agree. I agree 100%. And I'm going to add to that because the mayor needs to apologize because for him to make it look like it is not an issue in our city, but everywhere else, that was his agenda. That's why he had no business speaking. I remember several years ago when we was doing this whole racism in state government.
I remember.
And you had 4 major pastors who were leading the charge. NAACP was a part of it, but it was 4 major pastors, and all 4 of them were cool with the governor, including myself. The governor, Markell, had done very well for me, but no one by me, and they now know that. The question I have is, who is leading IMAC to let them believe that you invite in the problem to make sure that they put a statement out there so that what you're trying to do is just canceled out? Because for him to say that this is not a Wilmington issue, it is a national issue, all the way wrong. And I agree. Apology needs to be extended from the mayor's office, and an apology needs to be extended from IMAC because you permitted him to speak, you allowed him to speak, and that was not I hope it wasn't the agenda for what you all were trying to do. You were trying to bring attention to what is going on in Wilmington and in this country. For him to make that comment and no one to refute it, other than a person
said nothing.
other than a person who indirectly basically said, "No, Mr. Mayor, you're wrong," and then he lost his seat too, by the way, because he probably would have got in. As I'm understanding the numbers, he probably would have got in, but that 1 or 2 people said, "You know what? I can't trust Kobe with not being able to kiss the mayor on his ring." Amen. So, but here's my point, and I'm gonna stay serious. I do believe that IMAC, you owe our community an apology, and I'm not gonna take it back. I'm looking you right in the camera, and you can call who you want to call. I never have to worry about preaching in nobody's church. I have a good one here. You owe our community an apology, and you need to apologize because while the mayor has a right to come to any press conference in this country or in our city, he does not have a right to have a forum to speak. And to allow him to speak, and then he say what he said, and not correct him on the record in front of the press who was there, you owe our community an apology. And Mr. Mayor, for your insensitivity, for you being aloof to our community needs and what we're going through in our community, you owe us an apology too. Now, whether or not we ever get it, that's between you and God, but you owe it to us. Anything else before we go on to our next?
That's all I have.
That's all I had.
And I apologize for being a little emotional, but I am a gospel preacher. I apologize. And I do believe in grace, but enough is enough. We should not continue to be disrespected. Whether you are a clergy or you are a clown, whether you are a politician or you are a puppet, you should not disrespect a people and expect to get away from it. There are people who are going to start speaking up. And when they start speaking up, don't call no special meetings. Oh, let's try to calm them down. This is the season to fix what is wrong. When things start getting out of control, I'm going to remind everybody, we asked for things to happen and it did not happen. We'll be right back.
People have a view of what they think a heroin addict is. And most of the time when I tell people that I'm a recovering heroin addict, they don't believe me. I didn't get sober by people giving me a hug or telling me it was gonna be all right. I got sober by people saying, you know what, Justin, your behaviors are off the wall and you need to do something to change them. It's crazy now to look at my life as I'm getting married and I'll be sober at that wedding. If I can affect one kid or one inmate or one person, hey, you know, we're saving one life and that life matters.
Have to worry about while pumping your gas, but with what we're seeing across the city, like the story that Meg just brought to you, It's really important that you be on guard, unfortunately. Erica Frandl shows us how to avoid being an easy target at a gas station.
Dashcam video Monday night captured a close call at the Costco gas station. Watch this white vehicle as it pulls between cars gassing up. You can see someone on the passenger side get out of the car and pull open a cracked driver's door. That driver walks over from the pump and pulls the person off. The suspects drive off.
When the guy went to the driver's side and she kind of ran over there to help, I mean, that's not the best out because they had somebody in that vehicle that could have hurt her. She definitely got lucky.
Former New Orleans police officer and now criminal justice consultant Justin Brown shows us how he gets gas while avoiding being an easy target for criminals.
So the first thing you do when you get to the gas station, you need to look around your surroundings. If you don't feel safe, don't get out. But once you get out, you lock the door, and then you go to the pump. You're still looking around, always being aware of everything that's going on around you.
The owner of this gas station on Magazine says they fortunately have not had carjackings here, but Brown says no matter where you go, lock your door even when standing right next to it.
If they try to steal your car, what they're going to do is they're going to pull on the door handle. It's going to be locked. They're not going to do anything. They're going to run off, hopefully, right? If you see somebody run into your car to pull on your door handle, it's locked, go straight inside. That's the first thing you do. You want to get to safety.
He never leaves his keys in his car.
Even if you have push to start, you can't get comfortable. You can't get complacent. Nowhere is safe at this point. So have your keys in your hand.
He recommends choosing a pump close to the store.
That's where safety is. That's where your cameras are.
Another option, avoid gas stations.
I do not go to gas stations whatsoever. I just order my fuel.
Keatris Bourgeois uses Fuel Up NOLA, a gas service that comes to you for $5 plus the cost of fuel.
Just with all the carjackings and the random robberies, it's just unsafe to stop.
And if you do find yourself in this situation, Brown says don't fight back.
If somebody jumps in your vehicle, let them have it. Your life is way more important than property.
And we're back. Well, what's going on in Shanae's scope of the world?
Yeah, so this week I went to the PAL Center for a tour. I know there's some great things happening. I am actually a PAL OG.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
When they were building the PAL Center, I lived on 38th Street, and the PAL Center is on 38th Street. So I watched as a kid when I was in middle school, watched the PAL Center be built. And at that time, we didn't have a community center to really go to on that side of town. There was nothing. Like, we knew of Hicks, but Hicks was over West Side.
Right.
And North Side kids, we wasn't fooling with the West Side kids. You know, there was a lot of drama over there, right? So I know the PAL Center is something that's definitely needed in our community, providing different programming. But I'm so happy to see that Mr. Purnell, he's doing great work over at the PAL Center. And I just wanted to highlight that because I feel like there's like small things happening in the city that are really positive.
Right, right.
That we really don't get to talk about or highlight. But I know over the time that he has been there, he has been able, for me, to turn the PAL around. I'm just going to be freaking honest. I feel like 7-8 years ago, I remember I was pregnant with my daughter and I went into the PAL Center. I haven't been in there in a while. And I was looking at the daycare center and I was like, yo, the PAL Center looked kind of bad. Like, it wasn't looking too good. It wasn't in shape. And I wasn't sending my daughter to the daycare at that time, just to be honest. But I'm happy to have gone in there to see some of the renovations that had happened. It used to be 2 gyms. One of the gyms turned into classrooms now. I was like, oh, this is crazy. Now they have an upstairs dance a dance studio in there, and then across the street they have purchased that lot area and they have a new playground. They have a basketball court, and what was even more for me, like, they're building an aquatic center, a whole nother community center over there. So they're raising money currently for that. So if anyone's interested in helping to support the PAL and their initiatives, and we need a pool, because when I think about when I was a kid, the closest place to go swim, we either went to the PAL or we had to walk across town.
Wow.
And kids are not walking now. I think about my daughter, she can't walk down the street. And I used to walk the whole city of Wilmington. But the PAL, I heard that PS isn't allowing public people to use the pool. I didn't know, I didn't know that because I'm not doing that anymore. So I didn't know that. But we used to go to PS all the time. Or go
When it was a community school.
Yeah, when it was a community school. Now it's like blocked off to the public. So I'm so happy to hear that. And they talked about like a swim team. And like, for me, I really thought about like exposure. Like, kids just need exposure.
They do.
All right. And I think about my daughter, Sam. She does gymnastics. And like, I'm just a regular single, I got 3 kids. I don't have that much money at all, but without the support of my family
Uh-huh.
and like me having like decent income, my daughter would have never been exposed to gymnastics. And she's like, I'm not bragging or nothing, but yeah, she's really good at what she does,
Not to
you know?
brag, godly proud.
Yeah,
She
I'm
may
like,
not want to brag, but I'm just saying her daughter was just performing with Simone Biles. So I'm
Wow.
just saying. I'm just saying.
come on, you know? But so like for me, I think of like kids like my daughter, kids like me who grew up in the city without exposure. My daughter would never been exposed to that. I would have never knew that was her talent, right? But I'm lucky to have support.
Yeah.
And if I didn't
Yeah.
have that support, I would not be able to afford gymnastics. It is hefty.
You know, I want to talk about the director too, and now that you sit on the board. But before I talk about that, let me just say this to you: that you just made a very powerful point for those who are watching us. It's about exposure.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, a lot of the violence, a lot of the things that happens in our communities because they don't see a way out, they don't see an alternative, they don't see anything positive. To be able to hear, and I'm glad to hear that because I know there was a season when the Powell Center was not doing what it needed to
Yeah.
do. But to hear that there's a turnaround, we need to take a moment instead of rushing through that and just talk about the Powell Center. That's why I want to talk about the because you said, I think you said Purnell.
Yeah,
Chris
Dr.
Purnell.
Purnell.
It's
Yeah.
important that you know him.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about him and one day maybe I'll invite him to the Coffee with Curry so I can sit down and we can really talk about it because the support is needed. And when you talk about there's other things they're trying to do, it is so hard for us to get funding. But every time you can get some exposure, that's good. So tell me a little bit about Purnell.
So Chris, he started out as our programs and development director, and in 2019, when Bunny Miller stepped down as executive director, he was promoted to the executive director of the POW. We have an internal saying, right, that we're getting out there that the POW's popping, right?
Okay.
So
It is.
things have changed for the good. Our child care center has now grown,
Good.
and a lot of the kids, right, from that birth, from birth to about 6 years old, it is constant. The waiting list is so long now. And Chris really had the vision to take what we used to call when I went there the baby gym, right? And because it wasn't really in use, he kind of transformed that into 4 classrooms to break it up, divide it up by age range and everything to expand our child care center. And then on the upstairs, since the old gym was a huge area, right? The upstairs, they decided to make it a dance studio, multi-purpose room, which now there's people constantly in there. There's Zumba, there's dance classes, yoga. People have all different types of business meetings in there now, so it keeps those members in the community coming in. Your brothers with the Qs, they come in and they do a mentoring program now. We have Chris had the idea to bring Lifesavers to the POW, and that program has now expanded. It's an after-school program of engagement, tutoring, also some fun and games as well too. They do trips. They learn about different things, learn about health, mental health, self-care, financial literacy, and there is just so much going on.
Excellent.
Outside of that, Chris has brought in a board, right? And I'm not saying this because I sit on the board, right? But he has brought in a board that has a different mindset now.
Gotcha.
And I'm the first former PAL student to be on the board.
Okay.
And I now serve as the board vice president.
Excellent.
Chris had the vision of let's expand the PAL's campus. We were able to raise the funds, huge thanks to Senator Darius Brown, to purchase the lot across the street. Vacant lot, nothing was going on there, but some vacant cars over there. Purchased that, and the first project that we did was build a playground for our kids to go to. And it wasn't just, we're going to put some money out, cut a check, and someone build it for us. We partnered with Discover, we partnered with Kaboom, and the community. The community came together, and with our own hands, we put everything together.
Great.
We dug all the holes. We fell in some of those holes as well too.
didn't
It was
fall
fun,
in,
right?
did
you?
I did. Listen. It was a 3-day project, right? And day 2, I was like, we're gonna finish on time, but we weren't able to, right? And we were able to do that because we had people from our civic associations come out. We had parents come out. We had employees from Discover come out. We even had some local people from the city corporate world who saw it on social media the first 2 days and decided to come out. They ain't really know what was going on, but they wanted to get involved. So it was just an opportunity, right? And it was all because of the vision of Chris. And I think, with this next part, it's not just an aquatic center, right? It's a full resource center for the community. It's going to have 3 to 4 retail spaces as well too, to help bring in revenue for the PAL to make that building sustaining. But they want to look at how we can really serve all aspects of the community, not just youth as well too. So those wraparound services for the parents that we know they may need and stuff like that. But also looking at bringing that aquatic center here, right? The possibilities of that and to have that vision is amazing. But what it will do is we will be able to create a club team. We'll be able to partner with other schools who do not have the resources, right? They don't have their own pools. You look at
Yeah.
teams who have swim clubs who are all packing into the same place and swimming together for practice, right? They need expansion. And honestly, I think if we're able to make that happen, that is going to be a staple for the North Side for a long time to come.
You're gonna make it. Y'all going to make it happen, and that's what I believe. I believe in our community very strongly, and I believe the more we expose our young people to, the more talent we see. And you just kind of like nailed that today. So that was a good piece on your part with bringing that to the front. And I'm glad. And Dr. Purnell, hats off to you. Your vision. The Bible says, "Without a vision, the people perish. With a vision, the people live and flourish and do great things." And at one point we were hearing a lot of negativity about the Powell Center and about the negative activities that were going on and about the behavior. We have not heard any of that.
We have a
It's
lot of
getting
new
much-
staff.
Yeah.
And also I'm the chair of the capital campaign. So the fundraising for everything that's going on, we just got new bleachers, right? The bleachers, I just want to talk about the bleachers.
Okay.
Because some of the formers came in the other day. It was like, oh, y'all finally got rid of the bleachers that was here since day one? Yes. We were able to expand how much seating's in our gym.
I used to be in those bleachers up.
What? We almost doubled the amount of seating that we have in the gym now. We finally updated our basketball hoops so that it's not that crankshaft anymore. We're getting a whole new library. So I am super excited about what's going on in
And
the
girl
rooms.
programming.
We're
'Cause
getting
when I went to
girl
the Powell Center,
programming.
we was
Yes.
watch boys. There was no girl programming.
But we have that now, right? We partner with other people throughout the community. They even made a video, a music video last year. They're doing poetry now, creative writing skills or developing creative writing skills. So listen, my role as the capital campaign is to find the money. So if anyone watching, if you, your organization, your company have a financial giving arm to nonprofits, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about how we can partner. If you have a program, let's talk about what we can do to potentially get you in the PAL and bring as many opportunities to these young kids.
Yeah. Well, this is just great news. And Shanae, you brought a great, last week you got us all mad, but this week you got us all more morseful. And I want to also say, as Brother Kobe have said, those brothers of Omega Psi Phi is just awesome. They just show up, and we may not have all the money, but we certainly got the skill to stick with brothers. You had one more item on there. Al Sharpton came to town. What's going on?
Al Sharpton came to town through the Citizens Police Overview, Police
Judiciary fairness.
Yeah, so they're focused on diversifying our court system here. So right now it's pretty much old white men. And they're looking for ways to get more Black and brown people in the court system. But I think it's connected to a lot of things with we're going to talk about later with the Delaware
And the court
Bar.
administrative system.
Yeah,
So
administrative system.
their focus is the Chancery,
Chancery,
right,
yeah.
which is our Chancery Court is probably one of the busiest, if not the busiest, in the entire nation. That's where, if you see the articles, Elon Musk is in Delaware.
That's where he's going.
That's the court he's going to, right? Because of so many entities being incorporated here, you go to Chancery, right? So our Chancery Court has been a very white and lacking of diversity. Now that creates opportunity, right? So we have 2 vacants on our state Supreme Court. We're losing one African American woman and another Supreme Court justice to retirement. So one, I want to see another African American appointed, right, to that position. But then also, this offers up the potential to potentially grab someone from the Chancery Court and elevate them, right? And then when that creates an opening there, creating or pitting someone of a diverse background on the Chancery Court. So I don't know where in the process Governor Carney is, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and the vice chair, Senator Kyle Evans Gay and Senator Brown, are probably all in conversations right now about that whole process and what they're looking for and everything. But we will see things start to change soon, hopefully, and
Excellent.
kind of know who's on the list of for what positions and how it's going to create new openings.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all connected to policing, like the whole system. Like we got to look at the court system, probation, like every single from policing down to bail reform. That like that whole system needs to be reformed or
He kind of talked about
redone.
that. I saw some of the excerpts from his of his speech, and he kind of talked about that. You know how we are the minority, but we're always the majority when it comes down to the negative impact
Yeah,
that these systems have on us. So I think that that's really interesting. Well, that's great that came to town, and he went to the Powell Center too. So is bringing a lot of positive light to the Powell Center. Is there anything else from the Sinead we're
no,
going to?
nothing at all. Just really grateful. I'm glad I went to the Powell Center this week. It just made me grateful for
Right.
where I am and the support I have. And I just hope that more kids can get exposed to different activities and sports. Hopefully, maybe in the future, my daughter come back after she goes to the Olympics and bring gymnastics to city kids for free. So
I mean, I
I
like
love
that,
it.
for free. Amen. Because that's what's needed now. And I think that we have several, like you said, there's several programs going on around the country, around the city. And we do need to start highlighting them because they're underfunded, but they're doing all they can to help Black and brown children. And I think that's important. That's why I don't understand some people, but let's not get back into that. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, Brother Kobe, here's the Kobe Corner. I hope you have something good for us because
Yeah. So one, I know we talked about the courts earlier, right? So here in Delaware, we are a very corporate-based law state, right? Which means our Delaware bar is skewed that way, but then also it's not in the national pack. So in 34 other states, if you pass the bar in one of those states, you're admitted to the bar of that state as well too. So a lot of people, they go to PA, they go to Jersey, they go to Maryland, they pass there. That's where they practice, and then they can take cases almost anywhere, right? Um, Delaware has one of the hardest bars, if not the hardest, in the nation. But they have been working on a reform. There's been a reform group formed, working with the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, and they've announced the first step, right, which is lowering the bar admittance score from 145 to 143, which doesn't seem like a big difference, but it is. That's like an A to a B, right, in their eyes. Also, they're going to be offering it more often. So currently, they only offer it once a year in July, and now they're going to do it 2 times a year, once in July and once in February. This gives more opportunity for individuals to be able to take it and have a higher chance of getting admitted. They're changing the essay portion of the exam from 8 essays to 4. And they're also changing the topics that you can be tested on from 14 to 10. So now you can narrow in what you're going to be studying for in the exam in one of those 4 essay topics.
Now, before you go any further on that, now just admit, because there are people who are saying the Delaware is lessening its standard, when in actuality, you said it's skewed more towards the corporate.
Yes.
Help me to because for those who are watching, I just want to make sure we understand that, because I don't want people to think that because 90% of the blacks who take that test, that bar, they don't
Right.
pass. So just help me in that area.
So again, Delaware is a very corporate state. Between us, Wyoming, and I believe it's South Dakota or North Dakota, one of those states. most companies incorporate there, right? Delaware has been the biggest for incorporation, so they want to make sure they had an attorney pool for that. So that's kind of where our judges have come from and our individuals who are passing the bar. Now, also what goes into that is because it's so corporate based, I can go to corporate America and be general counsel and not have to go in court a day in my life and make $2 million a year, right? Where it also creates a very small pool because of that, right? It creates a small pool of people who want to go into public service sector, which is being public defenders, being prosecutors, being judges, right? So this is hopefully going to expand this opportunity. Also, some other recommendations that came is shortening the amount of weeks that you have to do a clerkship from 21 weeks to 12 weeks. And also just looking at some of the vacancies here, trying to encourage that public service sector, helping reduce some of their debt from college, their college tuition debt. But if they go into public sector, but then also looking at the fees to either take the test, right? So um, they're reducing the late fee application from $1,400, $1,400 to $900 for a law school graduate, right? So it's a very close window. You graduating school, get that degree to when you can actually apply. And then it's currently if you're out of state, right, or you're admitted in another jurisdiction, it's $1,600, $1,600 to take the test. They're changing that to $1,000.
Okay.
So a reduction of $600. So again, all these changes are internal. But they're partnering with the National Conference of Bar Examiners to kind of make sure that they're doing it in the right scope of things.
Gotcha.
So again, I hope that this creates more opportunity for minorities to get a part of the bar and start to give back to their community as well too.
Hopefully they can get funded so people can go, you know?
So that's the law schools side of things, which is
Okay.
a whole nother issue, right? Especially here in Delaware, but now it's going to be more competitive now that Wilmington University has opened up a law school. They should be accredited hopefully by 2024, and once they're accredited, you'll have 2 accredited law schools here in Delaware.
University of Delaware and
No, Wilmington University Law School and Widener Law.
Widener's in Delaware?
They're law schools in Delaware.
Oh, the
so
law school. Yeah,
that's-
that is on 202. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I know because Widener was in Chester, but okay.
Yeah,
Understood now.
yep,
Understood. Okay.
So those would be the only 2 law schools here in Delaware, and that will create more competition, which will create a need to want to drive more people into your school.
So the University of Delaware used to have a law department. Because I know some people
Yes,
graduated from
but
there.
not a law school.
School. I understand it. Yeah, there's a difference. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Next, I want to talk about the state's annual homelessness count, right? I just want to bring attention that when the state did this count, and I know they had certain deadlines they had to hit, was back in January when we had all those rainstorms, right? It's very hard to do an accurate count. We're never going to do an accurate count, but to do a more accurate count when you're in the middle of a rainstorm, people are being moved around. So, they talked to 5 volunteers down in Seaford who, in the middle of a rainstorm, they had their clipboards, their headlamps. They were looking in the woods behind the hotel in Milford, in Seaford. Here's the issue: when they go out for these counts, I've done these counts before. It's a lot of biases put into it, and also people try to reduce their numbers. So you have people literally busing homeless individuals out of their area so the count's lower, so that it looks like, on paper, because when they go to these corporations to come pick their businesses here, oh look, we have almost no homelessness. It affects the state in a negative way. It affects our voucher system and everything. So when the count took, it's less than 3,000 people in Delaware
Oh my Jesus.
is homeless, right?
Are you
With
serious?
1,000 of those individuals being counted as individuals who are currently on the voucher system in a motel or hotel issued by DHSS. We know that number is not right,
Right.
but the voucher system is all impacted by that. Pitt is all impacted by that. So, um, again, as we go through this, right, we have to make sure that we're accurately doing this so that we can try to get as many resources allocated to help people. I know in Georgetown, between them, 3 of the council members hating my guts for calling them white supremacists, um, and them decided to give $24,000 to a museum to fly a Confederate flag and to honor individuals who wanted to keep my people in chains, even though some of those people are still cops now. These individuals in the same breath, in the same meetings, talked about not having enough money to deal with the homeless population down there. With either one saying, let's bus them up to Wilmington. And that's the crazy thing to me. You have 3 sitting city council people down there. The mayor wasn't supportive of this, and Councilwoman Diaz wasn't supportive of it. The other 3, they couldn't understand why they didn't have any money, but yet they're giving money to white supremacy. I know in Georgetown alone, they have an encampment, they have a tent city that has like 60, 70 people living in it, right? That's what they're dealing with down there. But yet, I think some of these governments want to focus on penalizing these people for not having housed and being unhoused instead of looking at how we can get them housed. We're the wealthiest nation in the world, right? No one should be unhoused if they want somewhere to live,
Right.
right? And for those who need help, we should be able to help them. We have so many vacant properties throughout Wilmington, throughout Newcastle, throughout this state. Everyone should be able to have somewhere to go that's safe and affordable. Next, I want to talk about a program with DENRAC. So DENRAC is seeking funding from Governor Carney for their trademark Tree for Every Delawarean initiative. And this is because there's so much development that's been going on and what's going on with the environment. They want to be able to plant a tree for every Delawarean here, right? Somewhere in the state to start to regrow our forestry here. And honestly, it's not a super expensive program, right? It's it would cost the state maybe about 100,000 each year, right? If they wanted to do 80,000 trees, right? It's $100,000. That's not bad, especially as you start working it, right? So the initiative is to have 1 million trees planted by 2030. So again, they're seeking funding, and this time they're raising the ask of $500,000 so that they can plant as many as possible in this upcoming year. I think it's a really good initiative.
You get to choose what kind of tree you want.
No, they
Oh,
they
because
just they
I got
plant
a
for
couple.
you.
I wanted a dogwood tree in front of my house.
My last point, and again, it hasn't been talked about in the media too much, but through my role with the NAACP, a lot of families reach out, and I don't get paid for any of this, and I get very bogged down and swamped very easily with cases. But this last week and a half, there was 7 different cases involving young teens in Delaware and some type of law enforcement, right? So whether it was the police with the main event or it's their school resource officers, in school suspension officer, teacher, whatever they want to call it now, or just an administrator. Um, from Smyrna to Indian River to Stanton Middle um, to the Brandywine School District, it has resulted in multiple teens who are minors being left with concussions, bruises, put in foot braces, the cast, put in arm slings, or suspended after telling the school and reporting to the school and having it well documented with the school that they were being bullied. And then when those bullies assaulted them, and I know my mom when I was young, she said, look, if someone hits you, grab one of them, take them on, and let the others, they can get their hits, but you're still going to get one in.
Right.
Well, when that happens, now they're a danger, even though it was 3 and 4 other kids jumping on them. But they're all black kids. And now they're being demonetized for their actions. You pull them out of class out of nowhere, and they end up in a foot brace. But yet, they're the ones in trouble, not the grown adult who assaulted them. That's what we're dealing with in Delaware. And then they now face charges.
The kids.
So I would hope that the Attorney General would take a look at these cases, see that there's a pattern of injustice, drop the charges, and also use your perch as a top law enforcement officer in the state to try to change that direction a little bit.
While you were talking, I was just I said I was going to be quiet, and I'm going to be in a minute. This is the problem. I agree that some of our young people are acting out. Okay, I'm going to agree to that. There's some things that are happening around our city, and as well as the counties and the poor neighborhoods, where the young people are fighting. They are doing things, some shooting, some doing all kind of stuff. But there is a call and a demand for professionals to be professional. You cannot sell me by saying, well, if they would just act right, then the police would have an easier job. If the stress of being a police officer or truants, or what kind of officer, is to a level where it causes you not to be professional, then you need to step away from it. It is not fair. Okay, if a child has been bullied, he responds, and then now everybody's in trouble. So in other words, no responding, just get along. Where is the counseling? Where is the intervention to make sure we're bringing some kind of, neutral ground to the situations that are happening in our schools, in our playgrounds, and everywhere else? Because there is none, they have to find the only means they have in order to solve their issues. And when they decide to use it, which is not always the right way to do things, but they're children, they're young people. For them to be harmed, brutalized, unacceptable. I will not buy it. I will not buy it. I don't want no one to harm my child, but I don't buy my child has come to you, have shared these issues. You have not addressed them. Now she's taking it in her hands, and now she's this villain, this horrible person, and we're going to give her a record. Unacceptable.
And we continue to see this happen throughout our school. Even when incidents happen outside of school, there's a higher rate of a minority student getting in trouble in a double jeopardy form. In my mind, it creates double jeopardy. Now I'm getting in trouble in school. If something happens outside of school, has nothing to do with the school, the Attorney General sends a letter to the school to notify them. Now, it's supposed to be for certain things, which that was the original intent, but now it's almost any time. So now kids who are being found not guilty of what they were originally charged with are still being suspended from school for either getting in trouble, but really they weren't in trouble. It was the AG's office and them charged the wrong person, but they don't have any follow-up. So there is a bill that has been introduced last year. It's been introduced this year, and hopefully it moves. We'll see. We'll be following it. It's been introduced by Sherry Dorsey Walker. But we will see what happens with it. Because this keeps happening up and down our state. This isn't a Wilmington issue. This isn't a Newcastle issue. Indian River is the same school district that had the racist cop who wanted to say, "Boy, you don't belong down
I
here."
remember.
Who's the school board president?
Yeah.
So if this young lady gets suspended, guess who she's gonna have to go in front of?
Mhm.
Him.
And he's
But
going.
y'all were quiet. People were quiet. They didn't want to call on him to lose his job as a state police officer. They don't want for the rest of the school board to remove him. There needs to be some state legislation around how they can remove sitting school members when they do things like this.
Mhm.
But this is what we're dealing with in Delaware right now. And that's how I want to end this. I want to end this with people thinking about that and what we can do to change it.
Wow, it's so much. I often think about Sister Shanae who gets so frustrated because don't understand why. The why. Why are we permitting? Why are we embracing? Why are we endorsing? And it's at a place where it appears to be the Wilmington way. Not every person in Wilmington, just certain power brokers, where you wear them out with their own issues, and soon the issue will go away. That has to stop. Things that we're bringing to you every week, there has to be some follow-up. There has to be some community outcry. But when you really, really matter, the most is during election. Something Jay Street and Kobe was talking about, I had no clue when they first got started. School boards. I'm like, who care about school boards? Boy,
It's where it's at.
now we're finding out. That's where it starts. But from there to our elected officials, they're there now. We have just a year and a half. They'll be up for election again. We're going to have to replace them. Now, don't let me be the lone voice in the wilderness, because listen, it's their children today. It's going to be yours tomorrow. You sit back and you let these people continue to do what they do. There has to be an outcry before there's a murder. There has to be an outcry before there is a calamity. And I'm begging you, use your power to vote. I always look, my daughter goes in there with me. Until she's 18, she's going to go in there with me. And sometimes I let her push the ballots after her questioning me on why should we vote for this one or that one? What have they done for us? You have to engage yourself in the electoral process, because if you do not, you're going to continue to cry every time something goes wrong. Get rid of these people. That's how you solve it. Anything else on your docket for the day?
I have nothing else for today.
Anything else on your docket for the day?
Oh.
Well, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Shanae Darby.
See ya.